the January 23rd meeting of the Council Committee on Operations and Ethics to consider Local Law A of 2019 by Councilmember Hoey, which would establish standards for maintenance and publication of minutes by public bodies. Present are committee members, myself, Councilmember Conti, Mr. Igo, Mr. Anani, and Mr. Hoey, and staff, Jared Pellerin and Michelle Andre.
Who would be the fifth one on the committee?
Judy. Okay. There is in your packet actually a revised or a proposed amendment to what was initially sent out, which would add. So let me quickly just summarize this. What this local law essentially does is codify the existing requirements under the Open Meetings Law that public bodies maintain and make minutes available within a certain period of time. This would add to those requirements that they be published on the city website within a certain period. Also that members of the public who make comment at a public meeting or public hearing be listed in the minutes of the meeting, and that the topic upon which they spoke be indicated, and would also, in terms of the additional requirements, would add a provision that in terms of the members of the public body, that recording of a vote also includes how the individual member voted, and in terms of the identification of members of the public, also indicate the jurisdiction within which they reside. In other words, Albany or city, town, or village does not require the specifics of an actual street address. So, Tom, is there anything that you wanted to say?
I think the reason I'm looking for this is that we've seen some local boards have not been keeping minutes, and we'd like to be able to, especially when you're investigating or trying to track down certain things, you'd like to have the minutes there so you can understand why. So I think for transparency for the public, that they can understand what's happening at these meetings.
Okay. Is there any members of the public who wish to speak? No? I see none? Okay. Is there any committee discussion?
Tom, you had the concern about information that was handed out at a meeting, like when you were at the public, whatever, the planning board, you said...
I was at the planning board, there was no minutes.
No, but things were handed up. Does this require them to be put into the minutes or available, or is that, it should be available by law now?
I think that's available now.
Yeah.
It shouldn't, but they weren't in that case.
So you're talking about if someone handed in a letter or an additional member of the public. So under the Open Meetings Law, the only thing that in which our minutes also comply with is that they have to basically, indicate what's here.
Was handed out, but not.
No, they don't have to say it was handed out. It doesn't have. It's not a summary of the discussion. It has to be a record of items discussed, actions taken, and votes taken. Those are the basics, which is what our council minutes do. So if there is material handed in by members of the public or other parties, that is part of the record and should be available to the public, but it's not posted in the minutes.
One of his biggest concerns. Yeah. Okay.
At one point we suggested the planning board, for example, or the planning department maintains an online case files, but that's a lot of stuff to put in.
They do that.
They put in stuff related to the application, but not outside.
But you can request it, you can foil them for it.
If it's a document that's submitted, it should be submitted in part of their file. That is.
But in your case, they said it wasn't available, or nothing was handed up.
It wasn't me. I've never had any problems. I know somebody in the neighborhood tried to get stuff, and Brad Glass did send it to them.
Okay.
But one of the problems, and I'll be talking about it in another, is that the information is given hours before a meeting, so you don't have time to read through and be able to do it. So that's another day. Jared and I are talking about it.
Okay. I also want to note for the record that council member and committee member Doche is also here. Is there any additional discussion? There was a little bit of an amendment on the local law. Nothing, just tweak.
I'll make a motion.
Yeah,
okay?
just also, because this is a local law, I just want to note, where we usually move to amend and pass ordinances on the same night, a local law does have different standards in that the final version has to be in print and available for 10 days prior to the vote. So we won't be able to vote on this tomorrow night, but what you do is move to amend it tomorrow night. Just make 10 days for our next meeting so it can be passed at the next meeting.
Excellent.
Okay. So is there a
I
motion?
make the motion as reported out of committee with a favorable recommendation.
Mr. Igo makes a motion, Mr. Romano is second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? None. Being no further business, I move that the committee meeting is adjourned.
Second.
Done. Okay, folks, we just
You
did
want to
everything.
repeat that?
No.